Hey, welcome back in. Today, I want to take a look at the Bears. They would finish fourth in this past season in NFC North with a 5-12 record. It seems like a lot of teams would finish with a lot of similar records. Normally, used to having like finishing dead last with this and all this other stuff, but it seems like a lot of teams are like tied for the same wins or same losses. It's so crazy how close a lot of teams really finished at the end of this past season. So for the Bears, this would make it now 4 straight years, if I'm not mistaken, missing the postseason because they last made it. Oops, I hit the shot button by mistake. No, I'm not buying any Bears gear. Don't worry. Because I think the only time they made it, well, the two times they made it with Trubisky was in the 2018-19 season. And then I think they made it in the 2021 season, if I'm not mistaken, as that was the first time that they had a seventh seed in both the NFC and AFC. So yeah, 22, 23, 24, 4 straight years without making the playoffs. But if they can play as well as they did at the end of the year, where they, finally got a couple of wins under their belt, and Caleb Williams started to feel more comfortable, and now with the new addition of their head coach, who used to be the offensive coordinator for the Lions, there could possibly be optimism for next season. And considering that the fact they started off the season this past year so hot, and I will take a look at their stats here right away, they had hope and expectations. I want to say maybe a quarter of the way through this season, but unfortunately, their wheels kind of fell out from underneath of them. So we'll take a look at their full schedule. Again, preseason doesn't mean jack all, and if it did, you could crown them the champs because they were perfect when it came to the regular season. So, or the preseason, I should say. So they would start off 1-0 against the Titans. They would lose 2 games against the Texans and the Colts, respectively. So that's 3 straight opponents of the AFC. I have never seen a team from the opposite conference play 3 straight games against an interconference team before. So it has probably happened before. Maybe I just haven't paid that close enough attention to it. But it's very scarce, in my opinion, that you start off the season playing 3 games against a team not in your conference. So again, they'd start off 1-2, but then after that, they would win 3 straight games against the Rams, the Panthers, and the Jaguars, respectively. So they were 4-2 heading into week number 8. And then take a look at all these L's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 straight losses. Just destroyed their season. They would finally win out their last game of the season against the Packers, finally winning against Green Bay for the first time since the 2018-2019 season. So I'm sure it felt good that they were finally able to get a W and stop that long losing streak. And now I'm going to take back what I said at the start, how they won the last couple of games. They only won 1 game out of their last 11. So I take back what I said, but there is, like I said, some optimism. There is hope that this team you can't get any worse when you're the worst team in your division. So we'll see what next season brings. So take a look at the individual player stats. So Caleb Williams, obviously the rookie from this past year, would finish with 3,541 total yards, a 62.46 completion percentage. He had 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So basically like a 3-to-1 when it came to his touchdown to interceptions. DJ Moore in his second year with the Bears would finish close to 1,000 yards. He had 966 yards on 98 receptions and 6 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, who I didn't realize until I was told by a friend of mine, because I thought he still played for the Chargers. He actually did sign with the Bears this past offseason, and he finished close to 800 yards with 744 receiving yards on 70 catches and 7 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, the running back, came close to 1,000 yards, 959 rushing yards on 253 attempts, and 6 touchdowns. And Caleb Williams, again, it's more common nowadays than say like 10, 15 years ago when the quarterbacks were mainly just pocket passers. He would finish with almost 500 yards himself, 489 yards on 81 attempts. So not too bad for a rookie quarterback. Lawrence Sweat, I believe, the defensive end, would finish with 5.5 sacks. He had 18 tackles and 2 forced fumbles. Kevin Byard, the free safety, would finish with 80 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pick. And their cornerback, Tyreek Stevenson, would finish with 2 picks, 50 total tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 12 pass deflections. On the special teams, Cairo Santos, the kicker, would finish with 21 field goals on 25 attempts, so missing 4, finished with an 84 percentage when it came to that. And Troy Taylor, the punter, would finish with 3,911 yards, 82 total punts, and he averaged about 47 yards a kick. So now we'll take a look at the team's stats, if I can scroll back. So on offense, they would unfortunately finish 31st in the league in passing yards with 3,086 yards. Receiving yards, they would finish 28th in the league with 3,552. First downs, they were dead last in the league. They had 64 total first downs. Rushing yards, they would finish 25th in the league, 1,734 rushing yards. And points, they would finish 28th in the league, 310 total points. So not as great of a season or offensive side of things as they would hope. When it came to the defensive side of things, they would finish 17th in the league with 40 sacks, 19th in the league in interceptions. They had 11. Forced fumbles, they were 7th in the league with 17. And tackles, they were 11th in the league, 662. And Ben Johnson, he is head coach. That's what I just figured that out for the Lions now, or not for the Lions, for the Bears now. I'm scrolling up and I should be scrolling over. And on special teams, field goals made, I already looked at this. They were 30th in the league. They had 21 field goals made. Their field goal percentage, they were 19th in the league, 84%. They definitely missed a few kicks and extra points. They were 28th in the league. They had 25 extra points made, and their extra point percentage was 96.2, 15th in the league. So they were right around the middle of the pack when it came to the extra points stats. So, yeah, just a brief review and then a brief glimpse into the future. Again, a very disappointing season considering they started off so hot. When they were 4-2, I was thinking, imagine if 3 teams from the NFC North snuck into the playoffs. And unfortunately, again, the 10-game losing streak definitely killed their season at that point. And they obviously fired their head coach as well. So a very, very disappointing, underachieving team. But again, with any team that's going through the kind of stuff that Chicago's going through, like drafting a quarterback, rookies, and all this other stuff at different positions, it definitely can play a factor, especially in your first league. Now, there are cases where rookies have excelled in their first league and overperformed, aka the Washington Commanders. I can't believe they're still in the playoffs. It still blows my mind. But there is hope that this team, I've said this before, but when you're at the bottom of the league-ish, you can only go up. Like, you can only be bad for so long. You can't get any worse than being the worst, if that makes any sense. So there should be renewed optimism for the Bears team, and obviously bringing in a offensive coordinator, a former offensive coordinator from the Lions, who's obviously very familiar with the Bears and Packers and Vikings, playing against them for the past X amount of seasons, 2 games a year minimum. So maybe he can, help out the defensive side of things, even though he is an offensive-minded guy. But again, I hit the button by mistake, my bad. But maybe he can, spill some secrets or whatever it is, because he obviously was the OC for Detroit. Maybe he can tell the defensive coach, whoever it is, and the players, hey, this is the kind of offense they run. Let's try to practice against that. So, I mean, there's so many advantages to staying in your division. Doesn't matter if you're a player or a coach, manager, the team basically inside and out because you're around the guys every single day for the entire 18-week season, plus your off season, your OTAs, all this other stuff. So I guarantee Ben Johnson knows the Lions probably inside and out, considering he was, again, a part of the team last year, and he could have been a part of the team previously as well. So, and I can't see Chicago. I mean, I'll put it this way. They'll likely finish 4th again in the NFC North, only because the Lions are still going to be competitive. The Packers are still good. The Vikings, I'd say, would be the only question mark, because if they don't bring back Sam Darnold and then J.J. McCarthy does get the start next year, will they be just as good? Possibly. But again, because J.J. McCarthy got hurt in the preseason, he had 0 stats, and so no one knows what he's like as an NFL quarterback. I'm sure his college stats were great, but college and the NFL are two completely different leagues. So, yeah, again, I think I guess the only question mark for the NFC North would be the Vikings. Can they be just as competitive as they were last year? I'd say unlikely, but at the same time, it is possible. So the Bears, I'll say they could jump up to third if the Vikings don't exceed expectations. But if they do finish fourth, there's no way they finish with another 5 win. I say if I had to make a bold prediction again in January, I'd say they can get up to maybe 6, 7 wins. If I'm going to be realistic, because they had a lot of close games last year where they could have had more wins, aka the Hail Mary from the Commanders, who I just talked about just a couple minutes ago. That could have been it. They had the blocked field goal against the Packers earlier in the season, so that could have put them at 7 wins just right there. So I don't think 6 and 7 wins is really out of the question for the Bears for next year, but I don't see them finishing second in the NFC North because, again, I think the Packers and the Lions, respectively, those two teams should be a lock in for next year for the postseason. Like I said, the only wild card I would say would be the Vikings, and that's pretty much about it. So, yeah, the Bears, they should get, to, like I said, to about 7 wins next year, especially with the new OC as their head coach, and we'll see how the season plays out. So, yeah, that's all I got to say. I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over like a broken record. But yeah, that's the Bears season summed up. All right, as always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.